If you take a society and make it perfectly equal, equal rights, equal opportunities, equal pay, and you remove every single cultural barrier that holds women back, what happens? Do men and women become the same? Do they start choosing the exact same jobs and living the exact same lives? Common sense says yes, but the scientific data says no. In fact, the data says the exact opposite. This is called the gender equality paradox. It is a scientific phenomenon that proves that the more you treat men and women equally, the more different they become. And today, we are going to watch what happens when Dr. Jordan Peterson brings this uncomfortable scientific fact to a talk show in Scandinavia, the most gender equal place on Earth, and completely short circuits the panel. Let's break down the data. To understand this clip, you have to understand the setting. This is the Skavlan talk show. It is filmed in Norway and Sweden. These are countries that have done more than anyone else in history to ensure gender equality. They have generous parental leave, subsidized daycare, and strong laws against discrimination. The assumption in these countries is that once you remove all the patriarchy and all the social conditioning, men and women will naturally split 50-50 in every career. 50% male engineers, 50% female nurses. But that didn't happen. As these countries get more free, the divide got bigger. And when the host asked Peterson about this, watch how he drops the data bomb.
It means that the more egalitarian your state, the bigger the personality differences between men and women. That's like
How do you measure that? How do you know that?
Oh, well, psychologists have perfected, at least to some degree, the measure of personality over the last 30 years with very advanced statistical models.
The more egalitarian the state, the more different men and women become. This is the core of the paradox. And notice he references advanced statistical models. He's talking about the big 5 personality traits. Psychologists have measured personality in tens of thousands of people across the world, and what they found is shocking. In traditional societies where life is hard and people are just trying to survive, men and women act very similarly because they have to. But in wealthy, free, equal societies like Sweden, women become more agreeable and neurotic in the scientific sense, and men become less so. When you give people freedom, they don't move toward the middle. They move toward the biological extremes. But the guests on this show, they are not buying it. The panel starts pushing back. They argue that we just need to teach girls to be leaders and teach boys to cry more. They believe that nurture overrides nature. So Peterson has to explain why this happens, and he gives the most concise explanation of the nature versus nurture debate I have ever heard. I call it the 2 buckets theory.
Oh, because there's only 2 reasons that men and women differ. One is cultural, and the other is biological. And if you minimize the cultural differences, you maximize the biological differences.
This is the part that everyone misses. Imagine there are only 2 buckets that determine who you become. Bucket 1 is culture, how you were raised, social pressure. Bucket 2 is biology, your genes, your temperament. If you live in a society with heavy cultural pressure, bucket 1 is full, biology doesn't matter much. You do what you're told. But in Scandinavia, where you have emptied bucket 1, they have removed the cultural pressure. So, what is left to drive your decisions? Only bucket 2. Only biology. By clearing away the culture, they allowed biology to shine through 100%. This is why the differences got bigger. It's not despite the equality, it's because of it. Now, the host is still confused. He asks, does this mean men and women can't talk to each other? Peterson has to clarify that we aren't talking about ability, we are talking about interest. And this leads to the biggest psychological difference between the sexes. Things versus people.
So, for example, on average, men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people. And that's actually the biggest difference we know of psychologically between men and women. And even though men and women are quite similar, all things considered, the extremes make a difference. So you imagine that in order to become an engineer, look, obviously not everyone becomes an engineer, you have to have a particular temperamental proclivity to become an engineer. You have to be extraordinarily interested in things rather than people. Well, most of those people are men. And if you want to become a nurse, well, then you have to be much more interested in people than you are in things. And most of those people are women. And so you get differences in occupational choice that are also, by the way, quite great in Scandinavia, especially in the case of engineering and nursing, that are mostly due to biological differences. And you cannot minimize that by social engineering.
This doesn't mean women can't be engineers or men can't be nurses. It means that if you give 1,000 men and 1,000 women total freedom to choose whatever job they want, the men on average will gravitate towards systems, machines, and things. The women on average will gravitate towards people, care, and emotions. And here's the kicker. In Scandinavia, where the pay is good and the choice is free, women stopped forcing themselves into thing jobs and went back to the people jobs they actually liked. They chose happiness over political correctness. But look at how hard this is for the guests to accept. One guest, Annie, basically says, "I don't believe it. I think it's just how we raise them." She ignores the 25 years of data Peterson just cited because it conflicts with her worldview. And watch Peterson's response. He doesn't yield. He draws a hard line between what you believe and what the evidence says.
Not in choices, because I think more how we raise them, how we live, education, sort of culture, attitudes form a human being, whether or not they are a girl or a boy when they grow up. Mm-hmm. And if I raise my daughter to become a leader, to be self-confident, to have a high education, for instance, I think she will have a good platform to become a civil engineer, to become a CEO of a company, or to become a nurse.
Well, that is what people who think that the differences between people who are primarily culturally constructed believe, but it's not what the evidence suggests.
This is what people believe, but it's not what the evidence suggests. This is the mic drop. You can't believe we are all blank slates, written on by society. It's a nice thought. It feels fair, but science doesn't care about what feels nice. Peterson is standing in front of a group of people who have built their entire society on the idea that gender is a social construct, and he is telling them, your own experiment proved you wrong. The silence in that room? That is the sound of a worldview colliding with reality. So why does this matter? Because true freedom means allowing people to be who they actually are, not who you want them to be. If we want a free society, we have to accept the men and women might make different choices. And if those choices result in different outcomes, like more male engineers or more female nurses, that isn't a problem to be fixed. It's a freedom to be celebrated. Trying to force the numbers to be 50-50 isn't equality. It's just another form of social engineering. But I want to know what you think. Do you think these differences are really biological? Or do you side with the panel that it's all about how we are raised? Let me know in the comments below. This is always a spicy topic. And if you enjoyed the breakdown of the data, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We are going to be doing a lot more deep dives into the psychology of modern debates, and you don't want to miss them. I'm Troy, this is Troy Explains, and I'll see you in the next one.